My name is Engela Britz. I'm a musicology student and I also work at the UCT Music Library. So I'm both an aspiring musicologist and a librarian. Sure. I completed my master's research on the Rieldans in 2019. The Rieldans, or simply reel, is Afrikaans for reel, and it's a Southern African dance and music form that is believed to be descendant from the Khoi and San people, who were the first people of Southern Africa. So the dance is characterized by its very distinctive, energetic footwork, and it also has animal mimicry in it, and there are courtship displays. In the past, the reel was mostly performed in the rural Cape, so the Northern Cape Province, Western Cape Province, and even the Eastern Cape Province. But today, you'll find it wherever there are people that know the reel. So as we stand in Cape Town today, we don't have to travel very far to find reel dancers living in Cape Town, and musicians as well. And if we go back into the past, from the mid-19th to the mid-20th century, there's documentary evidence to suggest that the reel and dances that are associated with it were found further afield in Southern Africa and also into places like Namibia, Botswana, so Southern Africa as a whole. The reel and associated dances like the Namastap and other dances which are known by various names and in different places, they were spread right throughout Southern Africa. And today people dance the reel in a competition that takes place annually, and it's been danced in the United States and all over, as people have a growing interest in it, and it's being performed all over the world now. The reel dance was mostly performed at social dances that occurred on farms. So they were usually done on weekends or at life cycle events like weddings and birthdays. But they were specifically popular at New Year's, when people used to get together and they would dance and celebrate for days on end. What used to happen is that families would host these dances, and then the neighbors and their family from the surrounding area would travel by donkey cart or by bicycle to go to these dance parties, and people used to have a really great time together. So I can't speak about reel without speaking about the festivities that went around it, all of the food that went with it. So people used to get together, and it seems strange talking about that now, considering we're in this pandemic, but people used to get together, share food, especially breads, coffee, meat that they used to prepare on the braai, which is a barbecue in South Africa. So it was all about getting together and that social exchange with people. And there was a competitive element to it. So people used to challenge each other in the dance to try and vie for attention. There were many things, many facets to it. As I said, it has courtship displays, and today, as the reel is being performed today, it serves many of those same functions of bringing people together, but it's also an important form of identity creation and manifestation for the descendants of the Khoi and San people. So the theme of identity reclamation is a major theme, but if you go and look at the music, you'll find that it deals with a lot of themes of loss and sometimes hardship and even death. The songs are a way for people to share their interpersonal concerns through the form of music, and they draw on a repertoire, a pre-existing repertoire, and they also compose as they improvise or they come up with the things on the spot. So there's also the theme of festivity and being happy together and being with people. That was one of the major themes that emerged. So people really enjoyed getting together and spending time with people and sharing their common concerns and their lived experiences through music and dance. And the reel is all about being happy and being festive together. It's a very energetic, fun dance. People describe it in such a way that it was a respite from hardship that they may have experienced in their daily lives. Yeah, but it's all about coming together and having a good time, dancing, competing against each other, and just sharing time with other people. That community is central to the reel dance. It's about sharing, it's about coming together, it's about transmitting knowledge. So these things happen organically when people come together and they dance the reel. They tell stories to each other, they share their lived histories. And so that is reflected very strongly in the reel. People's pasts and their heritage within the land and place. So place is a very strong theme that comes across in the reel. So many of the songs and the dances, they're very reflective of place. In fact, that's probably the most prominent theme. If you're looking at the songs and you're analyzing them, you see that it's very much embedded in place. So in the Karoo, in the Northern Cape, so you see the animals reflected in the dance, you see the cuisine reflected in the dance, all of these things. The stories, the characters, people, they play out in the dance, and people sing about people, and all of these things are a communal way to remember and celebrate people from the past. My focus was on the music because I'm not a dancer, and it will be amazing if a dancer can one day go and really study the dance. But what I can say about the music is that the songs are in a major key and they make use of the primary chords. They are played on instruments like guitar, accordion, banjo, harmonica, concertina, and then also homemade instruments like the ramki. People even use things like spoons and combs to make the music. It's played on these instruments, and because they are like homemade instruments, and as the late Alex van Heerden pointed out, because the music was played on homemade guitars, the tunings often reflected the overtones found in bow music, Khoisan bows. So although it's played in a major key, you do hear these other elements. The music is played on these instruments like guitar and banjo and violin and concertina, harmonica, ramki, improvised instruments. There's no standard like instrumentation format for real music. But what is very important is to have a guitar. And for that reason, guitar formats are popular, because you must have a strummed guitar, because the strummed guitars, they are responsible for the rhythm and for timekeeping. And the rhythm is all important in the reel because of the way that the people depend on the music. Fani Hanse, he's a well-known and respected reel guitarist, told me that his father used to tell him, "Trap op die snaar," so you must dance on the string. The dancer is taking the lead from the guitarist. So it's all important to have the rhythm that's given by the guitars. So guitars are always present in reel music. Some of the reel songs have words, and so they usually consist of 3 or 4 line verses that are stitched together, and they are sung repeatedly. And the best way that I can describe it is really to use the words of Katrina Swartz. She's a reel musician who lives in Laingsburg, and she compared them to a las lapis kombers, which is in Afrikaans, it's a patchwork quilt. So people stitch verses that they've heard together and they make up their own. So it's really like a medley that people then sing over and over. And people hear them and then they change them. And Laila Abu Lugard also talks about this. She talks how people draw on pre-existing repertoire and then they play with familiar themes and structures and forms to make their own. To go back to the ramki, it's actually defined as a lute. There is evidence to suggest that it arrived in Southern Africa through the pre-colonial trade networks that were present in the Indian Ocean. So the ramki rightly might be strongly associated more with lutes of the Indian Ocean than with the guitar. For example, Kubik speaks about how things that were originally not indigenous can become indigenous in many African, or in many musical practices. So, and in that case, that is definitely what's happened with the ramki. And most people start playing the real music on the ramki because there's a strong connection between making your own instrument and then learning to play. So once you've made your own instrument, it's almost like a rite of passage into becoming a real musician.